Hello, we're so happy to be here with the USC Lancaster's Research Club, and I'm going to now turn it over to my dear friend and wonderful colleague, Marybeth Berry.
Yes, hi. We want to thank Liz Easley and Sarah Hunt for us being able to be part of this and share our work and the things that we've actually been able to do, especially during the pandemic with everything going on. And so we're going to talk about the show that we worked on called On the Spectrum. I will give a brief history about how the show came about, and Tyree will jump in on how he became part of it. This is my son, Blaze. He was in the show, so we will get his perspective on creating the show and what was happening throughout that process. So theater in and of itself, and Tyree, you can absolutely jump in anytime. Theater is really hard for scholarly work. And the reason is because a lot of times people are expecting some sort of publication, right? That's the way people know, like publish your results. Like, what are your results and how can you quantify that? And theater is not quantifiable, right? Theater is creative. Theater is visceral. Theater is an emotional response. Theater is a commentary on what is happening in the world. So it's not hard for us as theater artists to create scholarly work. It's more hard for people to recognize that what we do is considered scholarly work in our field. So when we create a piece of work, that is scholarly work, that is creative work that we have researched, we've worked on, we've created, and then produced and put out into the world. And sometimes things get reviewed and sometimes things don't get reviewed, but that's still all the scholarly work that we put out there is still part of that creative process for us. And so it's not easy. I was blessed enough to get tenure, and it was it was an interesting process in terms of how you go about listing all the things that we do. What Tyree and I do with the Lancaster Players is scholarly work. We create shows, we put them out there when they're out there for the community. And so we are disseminating information, right? We're showing our knowledge. And those types of things are difficult to make people that are not theatrical or not creative or in the arts understand that that's what it is for us. So On the Spectrum came about because I've done a lot of work, and Tyree knows this because he was my student, and as my student he did devised work and creative work, and then as my colleague he has continued to work with me on that. And so I have been dabbling is not even the right word, actually doing a ton of devised work, from getting trained in the Lugering method, the expressive actor method, which is a lot of how we base some of the devised work we've used, which is by Michael Lugering out in Las Vegas. And I'm a certified teacher in that. And we use a lot of that for our basis of devised work. And I know we use that a little bit in On the Spectrum. And so with the devised work and creating work, when I was in graduate school, I did a ton of one-woman shows because that was actually the easiest thing to do, okay? It's easier to take a one-person show than it is to try to put together a whole play and then, take it around to different places or showcase it in any way. So that has been my strength. My MFA thesis was Jean Cocteau's A Human Voice. So that has been my experience. And so I've actually parlayed that experience to my students and colleagues. And so we did One Bench, Many Voices, which was an offshoot of that. And we did I Am Here and worked in Italy on that. So when I start thinking about different types of scholarly work that I can continue to do that I find interesting, it's not always easy. But in the summer of 2019, in the summer of 2019, your phone just went off. Oh my goodness. It's okay though. So the summer of 2019, Blaze is here to share, and I'm really grateful. We're both really grateful that Blaze is willing to share. Blaze was diagnosed with autism, this autism spectrum disorder, and he is considered very high functioning on that. So it's something they used to call Asperger's, and now it's just all part of ASD. And so he came to the diagnosis relatively late in the process of a lot of children are diagnosed way earlier, and he was not. Some of that I think had to do with a lot of people in the Lancaster area that know me know that his biological father passed away from cancer. And so there was a lot of things emotionally that were happening for Blaze that we were attributing to, oh, well, it's grief, or it's the, adjustment disorder. It's all these different things. And so in that summer of 2019, after kind of realizing there might be something more going on, he was diagnosed with this. So it came as a huge shock to me as a mom. And it also came with, it was a shock for you as well.
I mean, I really didn't think that, I thought there was something wrong, but I thought that it was really just, I thought it was just grief. But like you said, it was.
Right.
And I think that too, and sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Mary, but it's true that it's just like me, and I've known Blaze since he was, a wee bit old. He was so small then, and even then I didn't know, and so coming into this particular experience with you all really opened my eyes, but it was powerful in itself. So I just want to say thank you for bringing me into this. Well,
there's very few people we would trust with it. So, and that's one of the reasons having Tyree involved was really amazing, because he is somebody that he's family more to us than anything. And so we trust him implicitly, and has these phenomenal theatrical skills as well. So we were able to meld all of that as a threesome and making it really work. So after his diagnosis, I was, as a mom, reeling, going, oh my gosh, like, how did I miss that? What could I have done differently? All sort of the feelings of guilt. Blaze was struggling with his own emotional tidal wave of things about, like, now he feels different. Yeah. I remember you talking to me after. Do you want to share the experience you had at school after you found out, you kind of recalled things that you would hear at school and how kids would say stuff, and you never thought of it until.
Yeah, so a lot of times, and a lot of times at school, a lot of people will make fun of autism, and I don't think they mean it. Like, I don't think that the people will mean when they say, like, oh yeah, you're autistic. I don't think they mean it like they're like trying to hurt people with autism, but I think they don't realize what they're saying is hurtful, especially to someone like me. So like I was. At the school I was at the time, there were some mean people in the school, and they would make jokes about, oh, you're autistic, or not like to me, but they would make jokes about autism and stuff like that, joking with each other. And I don't think it was malicious. But I think it was
uninformed.
Yes, it was uninformed. And then especially when I figured out I had autism, I was like, oh my goodness. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I was sort of shocked in a way, because these people that were supposedly my friends were making fun of a disorder that I had. And while it's not very bad, like my and see, like, sounds like this, like I'm like trying to figure out what to say, and I don't know exactly what to say, but like it shocked me a lot, because these people that I considered my friends were they hurt me, and I didn't really blame them for hurting me. I more felt just surprised, I think was a good term to use, because you never really, you're always like, oh, that won't happen to me, I'm not, and especially like when at the time I was like, what, 12 and I was like, most people get diagnosed with autism when they're younger, like you're like toddler, 7, 8, 9, like that time. It's not when you're like a teenager at that point. So it was very surprising to me, and you never think it's going to happen to you until it does.
Yeah,
so
that's true. And so I think that both of us were like in this weird emotional place. So when I started thinking of like, what kind of shows could I do? What step could I take artistically and creatively? It felt like, well, this felt like this could be an outlet for me, at least to start. And so it started as it was just going to be a one woman show, again, because that's what I've done a lot of. And I thought, well, okay, I can sort of parlay this emotional experience into something. And as it started to develop, and we realized that this would be a better opportunity. And I spoke with, so as the project was going on, I actually spoke with a colleague of mine in Ireland named Georgia Snow, and she was really interested in the topic of autism. And so we started talking about it. And so the intent was to actually go workshop and create this piece or start creating this piece in Ireland in April of 2020. And so were able to get support. The university was going to support my travel there. I was able to get a grant through RISE. And so, and not only that, I had actually went ahead and applied to 3 different theater festivals in 2020. And we were accepted to the San Diego Fringe Festival. We were accepted to the Capitol Fringe Festival in Washington, DC. And we were accepted to the Boulder International Fringe Festival in Boulder, Colorado, which was super exciting. So we had all these things, got the RISE grant, we're ready to go, and had our tickets, had everything started up. And
it was very disappointing.
It was very disappointing.
Very disappointing.
And the pandemic hit, and of course, all travel stopped. We did not go to Ireland. Capitol Fringe canceled their festival right out of the gate. San Diego postponed theirs for a year. We're still waiting for some information about that. I've heard a little bit about it, but not enough yet. They're still supposed to be doing something, but they're not sure. And Boulder Fringe wasn't sure, but they decided to move forward with their festival. And so, of course, the university did ban travel. So that was a problem. We weren't going to be able to travel unless it was on our dime. And as professors, we don't travel on our dime if we don't have to. So, especially with grant money. So, but the opportunity came that Boulder was willing to do a virtual festival, and they were going to, create this whole environment where they streamed plays and streamed performances and that sort of thing. So that left us with a thought of, okay, well, that will work, and that would be a great opportunity to create our piece and still be able to move forward with what we were intending to move forward with. And then enter Tyree, because at that point we were going to Ireland, and had some intentions, and they fell apart. And so we went to Tyree and said, okay, what do you think? And are you willing to be a part of it? And Tyree, you can share some of your experience from being asked and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I had just came out of my residency at Goddard College within the Mfa program, and Marybeth comes and says, "Hey, do you want to be a part of this a wonderful production?" And of course, I could not turn down something amazing as this, because I think that while this is a theater and of course it's acting, this is a real story. And it comes across for just any and everybody, and not just Blaze and Marybeth, but it kind of transpires to other people so they can see into their own lives of what's going on. And Blaze, I want to go back to something you said earlier when you talked about, kind of saying that the folks who were making these jokes were uninformed. But I remember even in the piece you said, you didn't need your accommodations. So nothing really for you kind of necessarily changed. You're still a kid. You're still the same kid as the next kid who is sitting next to you. And that's what people have to understand, that you're not different. I mean, people think that about us, that if we are not just like them, that we're different. I mean, we're all individual, we're all unique in our own ways, but at the end of the day, all of us are the same. So I'm glad you brought that up, because it just really, to me, says a lot. So it just changed my mind on everything as well, because I never felt like I've never worked with anybody who has been autistic before. I don't feel like I have. And so this opened my eyes a lot as well.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it was really, and like I said in the piece, and it's true. It's how I feel. I don't most of the time need my accommodations. Most of the time I don't need them. I don't really. Now there'll be some cases when I do, but most of the time I don't need them. And I'm really no different from everybody else. So, and it's not like my grades are low or anything like that. It's just, and the only thing that is a little bit different is my being social. That's a little bit different, but I'm not like a completely different person. Like I'm not like
Right.
I'm not like an alien. I mean, like so
Yeah, and I think too, that was part of the piece when we were thinking about it was, you know, a parent's struggle with a child's diagnosis and the guilt and the how did I miss this sign or how did I miss that sign? It's also I think in the piece we also tackle the notion that some people don't view it the same, or some people view it as a crutch and or an excuse to be used. And so there's so many myths to dispel, obviously, and I don't know that we dispelled every single one, obviously, probably not. But we wanted to start the conversation and we wanted to be thought provoking in what we were sharing about our experience in dealing with autism and the anger and the grief and the frustration. And, you know, obviously in our stories, not necessarily everyone's story. Clearly, we do know that there are people that are on the spectrum that are, you know, severely affected by this. And it's
our
a
story,
completely
it's very
different.
It's a personal experience. It's very personal, but our story can be, our theme at least I think would be, our theme of the story could be used with anyone who's autistic. And I would even say some of our themes in the piece could be used even with just a mother-son relationship. I think it can also be used in that. And you don't have to be autistic to connect this piece. You could be a parent, a sibling, because in the piece we also have a brother who doesn't gets angry at the sibling, because at the autistic sibling, because they feel like they're being outcast because they have a sibling who is autistic. And there's a lot of different themes that we hit. We don't hit all of them,
Right.
but we hit a lot of them, I think, in the piece. I think that we hit we definitely go over mother-son relationship. We go over siblings. We go over dealing with it. So we have a few portions of it where we have like figuring out that you have autism, we have a section of that, and then dealing with it. And I know in the process of while we were making this, I think we had, what was it, two stages or three stages, like three portions of the play that we were covering.
We had like three portions of the play that we
I know two of them were dealing with it and figuring it out.
Yeah. So, and like the next steps, and not that anybody we don't have all the answers. We still don't have all the answers. I mean, that's just the reality. There's a learning curve and you're always learning. But I think that for us artistically, we were seeking to share a story and give a voice to, in particular, kids that are diagnosed with autism that you don't know, right? You look at someone like Blaze, like Tyree said, or even I would say, and you would never know. I mean, when people find out that he has autism, they're like, what? He doesn't like, and but the problem is that you have a lot of these kids that are sort of living in silence. And they're not able to share their story because they are considered normal, which normal is such a relative term, but you know, this idea that there's nothing wrong with them, which autism is not, there's nothing wrong with somebody, but it is just part of who they are. And I think that, but there's this group of people that are really struggling to fit in, that people don't see the autism. And so they don't understand that, loud noises may affect them and they won't understand. So if a loud noise affects him, which you're not too bad with loud noises.
I'm not too bad. There will be some case scenarios when it, and it's not even like it scares me, like I'll start crying or anything like that, but it makes me like sort of like jump a little bit. But it's, I mean, like my mom said, there's like, like you said, there's like a tiny group of people who are on the spectrum, particularly people who are at the higher functioning end. And I'm not saying that anybody has it worse. There are like worse cases of autism, but everybody on the spectrum has their own struggles. while I would say on the lower end of the spectrum, is harder because it is obvious and it is harder to, and you have your other own struggles. Some people can't speak, some people, I mean, you know, it can be a struggle, but particularly for people who are on the higher end, it's hard for, like you said, people to recognize it. And I think, like you said, these people are being confined and restrained because they know that they're autistic, but they can't share it with people, because if they do, they're labeled as someone who is severely autistic, but they're not, and they have a lot of the same struggles as normal people would, but it's
I know what you're saying. I
Yeah.
think, well,
Yeah, definitely.
and I think the other thing too is like you said, it's the idea that people don't know, and then so he reacts to a loud noise or like crowds of people, he doesn't really like that, and he automatically, when that autism label comes out, he's automatically, by some people or a good number of people, considered part of a vulnerable population, which is a term we heard over that last year, which was devastating to him and to me, because I was like, well, wait a minute, that's such a horrible label. And what does that mean to be, you know, to be part of what you would consider vulnerable? I mean, is he really vulnerable because he has something that he's going to have to live with, and he does have struggles that makes him vulnerable? I don't know that I even like that term, and I find it actually relatively offensive. I think there are times that we use it, and it's appropriate. I don't believe that it's appropriate for I don't know, for my son, for sure. I know that. And maybe that's just personal. But I mean, when we were creating the piece, Tyree was really instrumental in helping us, because we got stuck.
We really did.
So we were writing, and we wrote a lot of good stuff and had a lot of stuff that just kind of poured out. And then we got stuck.
Like,
so
we couldn't connect it.
Yeah, we were having
like,
horrible time.
We were having like multiple themes, and we had multiple themes, like with the sibling theme, we had that, we had. And then we had, I remember the one scene where I went, and I, Tyree helped us with the one scene that we had where I think I went down and I was just playing with Legos, and you had your whole monologue, for themes, but we had trouble connecting them, and improving them, and refining them. And Tyree helped us pretty much connect the entire piece, and make it a good piece that can be deep, but it connect to multiple different people from multiple different backgrounds and cultures and whatever.
Yeah. So Tyree, go ahead. Tell us how you took our like spillage of emotions and stuff, and how you came in and were able to, because you came in with a whole different vision of how we were going to proceed once you knew it was virtual, and what you wanted to do with it, because that is really all you. Because I actually handed over the reins of directing. It was amazing.
I know, right? Well, I think for me, it was seeing something different that I had not seen before, and trying to navigate how it still was going to be authentic, but also how it's going to keep what you were saying true. Because I thought back to this when you guys talked about the on the spectrum, because I remember you saying, Marybeth, in part of it, in I don't know if you want me to share in personal conversation, but we were talking about it on the stage, all three of us, and we were talking about your own feelings and your own guilt with it. Right. And I just was like trying to figure out how to bring all of that out, you know, in this virtual world of now what we have to deal with, COVID. How did we get to where we are? Because it came out as a great, I mean, it was amazing. I talk all about it all the time. The wonderful posters behind me right now.
Yes,
you know,
I see it. And we'll make the link available to anyone that wants to get a chance to view it as well.
Definitely. So I just think that it was only fair to display this with the vision in mind of a person like me who is an outsider. What do I want to see? What do I want to see as a viewer? but also on the side of being an artist, how do I make that translate to the viewer as authentic as possible? We saw that a lot with the connection that you and Blaze had on the stage. Again, you're family already, so I mean that was not hard. But we saw the connection there between the sibling. We also saw the connection between the scene with the mother and father. It was truly on how we visualize it. And again, it goes back to what I said earlier, that while this is not it's not the story of everybody, because again, you guys said this, everybody's on the spectrum differently, but it does give them some insight. As I think I heard from someone else who actually came to see the show. They actually contacted me separately and said, they have their child is autistic. And this just for them, and they were a mother, and they said this just for them helped them to really cope with what they were dealing with. Because they said they had no idea of what they were getting themselves into. They just didn't know. It just kind of all fell in their lap, and they were just trying to figure it out. And they were going through their own depression. And so you guys, the way we were able to, again, give this to the viewer, change how they looked at life, how they were able to help their child move forward, how they were able to help themselves. And that's what we want. That's what I want to say we leave with.
Yeah, and I think too, I mean, so to have the opportunity to share the story, to reach other people, to have people comment and see their story or some sort of connection to what we were trying to express. At the end of the day, that's what we do as theater artists, right? And that's what our creative and scholarly scholarly work, that's what we do, and that's what we're striving for. And so and I think what award did we get at the Boulder Fringe? I think it was most heartfelt award or something like that.
Yes.
Something like that. It was like the most heartfelt award out of all of the shows that they had. We which I found to be such an honor, because that was sort of what we were trying to do, right? We were trying to create a piece that, yes, spoke to absolutely a timely issue. A mental health is important. It's an issue that isn't talked about enough, and various disabilities are really important to discuss and put on the forefront, so people recognize and have respect for people of all different types of disabilities. So for us, yes, it was topical and relevant, but also the idea that beyond all of it, there's just a mother and a son, a parent and a child connection, and the struggles that they face, just to relate and connect, whether they're trying to connect about the autism and the struggles there, or anything that any parent and child is trying to navigate. I think meant a ton to us to hear. And we're hoping that we get a chance to do Boulder, or not Boulder, San Diego.
San Diego.
We'll get it right. San Diego. And we don't know if we might be able to come back around Ireland at some point, which would be wonderful. That would be a great opportunity. So we'll have to see how that would work, because right now it's a virtual piece. Mm-hmm. And so we would have to retool it for what was originally intended, which was to be in person. Mm-hmm. And now we would have to retool it to an in-person experience. And, because as it stands, it's a virtual one. So we'll see where it goes from here. But that was part of the process, or that was a good bit of the process. That's pretty much how it was created. I don't know that it was part of it. It was pretty much how it was created. Yeah. I don't know if you or Tyree have anything to add.
No, I mean, I would like to maybe add on to the piece. I think there are more things we can touch on. I think we can improve it. It definitely can use some improvement. But I think we can add some more themes. I think we can also add to some of the themes that we already have.
I just hear more lines that I have to memorize. That's what I hear. I have to memorize more lines. You realize how old I am?
But yeah, I mean, I hope that it can go far. I hope it does. And I really enjoyed making it. Mm-hmm. It was one of those shows that you just love to do. You just and it's just it was just fun to make.
And we have it forever.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
which is neat. You know, something that we did
Forever,
together
forever and ever.
forever and ever and ever.
And I think so.
Close it out, my friend.
Say again.
You want to close it out, my friend?
Sure. I'm going to say, in final words, in my opinion, this particular type of art in theater is one of the most like empowering things life can give us. When you see, if you watch this particular piece, it just shows you like the innermost desires, like feelings and emotions that are all wrapped up in like this journey to, I don't want to say it's a journey of imagination, but just a journey of life, like in
Of
how we grow.
experience.
Yes, just the experience itself and how we grow over, and how we grow in what we do. So one leaving, and hopefully you do watch it. We do want to leave you with the memory, and may it last forever. So the things that you see, you understand, you take to heart, you actually sit back and think about those that you may come and encounter with that you don't know yourself, like I didn't know, that you may come encounter with, and hope you can build a true bond with that individual, and that will give you a better sense of life and help you open a new door. So we say thank you for allowing us to be a part of this wonderful experience with you, the USC Lancaster Research Club, and we look forward to many more.
Thank you.